Welcome to Movie Recall. In today's video, we'll be going through the 2005 movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's time to recall, let's get started, turn on subtitles, and spoilers ahead. The movie starts and we see a couple having a meeting with a marriage counselor. They tell the counselor that they do not even remember when was the last time they had sex. They tell him that their lives are just so boring that it feels like they have been with each other for an eternity, and in truth, they have just been married for 5 to 6 years. The counselor goes on to ask when and where did they meet for the first time, and they tell him that they ran into each other for the first time when they were in Colombia. They said that they were traveling alone and the police were investigating the people who were singles or who had not brought their partners, so to dodge the investigation by police, they decided to pretend to be a couple. As they introduce each other, John tells her that he works at construction sites as the construction instructor. Jane, however, tells him that she works in tech support. They started meeting each other frequently and fell in love. They then decided to take the relationship to the next level and got married. Back to the counselor, they tell him that they have known each other a considerable amount of time now, but they still don't know what to talk about when they're together, so they just sit there quietly. Whenever they're hanging out together, even if they manage to initiate a conversation, it ends in a few minutes and then they find themselves with nothing to talk about. The couple then leaves, and after a few days, John comes to see the counselor on his own. He tells him that he really loves his wife and could do anything for her, but their marriage could get difficult at times. John tells him that they have been married a long time, but they still really don't know each other that well because, of course, both of them have their own secrets. We then go on to learn that both of them work as field agents for different agencies. They are really good at their jobs, and at their respective companies, they are considered the best in the business because they never miss their targets. They have to go here and there a lot because they are field agents, and they have to keep up with their appearances as well, so they attend many parties in the neighborhood too. They just pretend to have fun there, and in truth, none of them likes doing it. They just do it because they have to. The shock comes when we go on to learn that none of them has told the other about their real job, and they go through so much to keep it hidden from the other. They have assigned themselves different slots in the house where they keep their weapons hidden and make sure the other does not see them. John pretends to be an engineer who also has established an engineering firm as his cover from his wife and, of course, all the people familiar with him. He even uses his company for actual work as well. That day, John is at his office when he receives a call from his agency. They go on to tell him about a prisoner named Benjamin Dans, who is also known as the Tank, and they tell John that he is supposed to put the man down as soon as possible. They tell him that this man could be a threat, so they have to eliminate him. It turns out that Jane has also been given the same task by her own agency. She is told that she is going to have to kill Benjamin when he is being transported from one prison to the other. Jane gets to work right away. She goes on to set some explosives on the route the convoy is taking. Her plan is to blow up all the cars as they cross the trap laid for her on the road. Things get interesting when John gets to that location in his Jeep. She tries to spot him with her binoculars, but she is not able to recognize his face. She has still not activated the explosives. When she sees John there, she thinks that it's a civilian. However, when John gets to his own work, she goes on to learn that the man is armed, and she understands that he too has been sent to attack them. She says that it is her target, and she is the one who is going to get it, so she starts shooting at John, who takes cover just in time. When she tries again to get a look at the face of the man, the convoy arrives, and they are just approaching the trap zone. Just then, John gets up and starts firing back at her now. The explosives get detonated and everything is destroyed. When John goes to check what is out there, he is able to find nothing as everything has been burnt to ashes. He then sees a woman leaving on a bike and he is really disappointed his mission has been destroyed. Later that day, he meets with his friend named Eddie and goes on to tell him that he was on a mission today and everything went according to plan, but a girl showed up and destroyed it for him. Jane is also angry as she tells her colleagues that there was this guy who totally messed up her plan. Jane then goes on to receive a call from her boss who tells her to find this mystery man in 48 hours, and if she's not able to pull it off, she could very much end up losing her position at the company. John then picks up the laptop he found on the road that day and gets it checked. He ends up finding the address, and it's a building in New York City. John makes his way to the building, but when he tries to go inside, he learns that no one is allowed to enter without getting a security clearance. When he stops there for a moment trying to come up with a plan, he goes on to see a label on which his wife's name is written. It turns out that this is Jane's office, and also comes to know that she is not what she has always pretended to be. On the other hand, Jane goes on to watch the videotape of the incident and learns that it was her husband out there, and he was the one who sabotaged her plan. He then goes on to call her. He asks her if anything unusual has happened to her recently, but the woman does not disclose anything whatsoever. When they are having dinner that night, there is a certain tension between them and they get alert of each other. They then go on to ask about their day and how work is going, and both of them reveal to each other that it was not a great day and that they have been having a lot of problems. They, however, tell each other that their problem will be sorted out soon. Both now start thinking that they are on a mission to kill each other right now. John right away brings his gun just to be safe, and Jane, on the other hand, just goes to the driveway. John tries to stop her by standing in front of her car, but she tries to run him over. John, however, manages to jump just in time. Jane now comes up with a plan. She decides that she is not going to leave the car because it could give John a lead on her. She crashed the car and leaves. John then goes to see his friend Eddie. He tells him the whole story and goes on to say that he does not trust her at all. He says that the woman has lied about her job, and now he thinks that she must have lied about everything else related to her. Eddie says that she might have been on a mission to expose him, and she has done that, of course. Jane, on the other hand, also goes to one of her friends to spend the night with her and tells her everything. The girl is shocked and tells Jane to finish John off. Jane then decides to keep an eye on John. She tells her team to go to her house and report the situation to her. Later that night, when John comes home, he finds out that all his weapons are gone. He is now pissed off at her and decides to meet her at her office. It turns out that Jane has already been expecting him, and when he arrives at the building, Jane tells her staff to evacuate right away and tells them to just empty the building. John then goes on to find some destroyed equipment from the office and goes on to look for any clues he may find. Eddie keeps telling him to just kill her, and John, on the other hand, also manages to find a lead on Jane. John makes his way to the building he has found. He uses the elevator to get to Jane, but it turns out that she has been watching him, and she right away disables the elevator. He then calls her, but she tells him to leave right away, also adding that she wants to leave town, and if he refuses, she is going to blow up the elevator. He tells Jane to get on with it, and she hesitates at first, but decides that she is going to be strong and gets ready to go on with her plan. She detonates the explosives set in the elevator, killing John, at least apparently. When she walks away, she feels guilty and starts worrying about him. She goes on to check on him, and it turns out that he is safe and alive in the other elevator. Jane, however, thinks that he is dead, and in the next scene, we see her sitting in a hotel where she mourns his death. He, however, shows up and tells her that he wants a divorce. She tells him that she is going to kill him and tells her to dance with him. While dancing, the two manage to take away each other's weapons. Jane then pretends to get upset out of nowhere and leaves the room, but John knows very well that she must be up to something. He turns out to be right as the woman goes on to create chaos by setting up the explosives in the hotel. Amid all the chaos, the woman disappears with the crowd. When John is looking around trying to figure out his next move, a man tells him that there is something ticking on him. It turns out that when they were dancing, she put an explosive in his pocket, and he throws the bomb right before it explodes. He is now pissed off. While chasing her yet again, he calls her and tells her that she is not going to be able to get away this time. She, however, does not take his threats seriously. John now knows who she actually is, but he still wants to confirm one thing, and that is whether she ever loved him truly, or is she still loving him. John goes on to tell her that he still loves her, but she breaks his heart when she tells him that he is just a cover for her. John goes on to say that it was all about her job then. The marriage was nothing to her, and Jane does not give any concrete comment on that. Both of them make it to their house almost at the same time, but Jane somehow manages to overtake him and locks the doors right away. He then goes on to get a spot where she is unable to see him, and then he manages to get inside the house using the back door. He right away gets his gun from his secret locker, and both of them go on to attack each other. A proper shootout between the two begins now. Both of them destroy the whole house as they come at each other, shooting at every little movement they make. When John has her in front of him, she tells him to shoot her, but John goes on to lower his gun. He realizes that he actually loves her and could never kill her. Both of them throw away their weapons and go on to share a passionate kiss, confessing their love for each other, and the moment is ruined by neighbors who show up at their door asking if everything is all right there. John tells them to go away. They then sit together in peace and go on to reveal their secrets to each other. The peace does not last for too long as both of them are attacked by an armed man and they rush to a safe place. John then goes on to tell her that he was given 48 hours to finish her off, and she says the same thing. Their enemy then goes on to explore the house, but the couple somehow manages to get out just in time. The two get up, steal their neighbor's van, and hit the road. On the other hand, Eddie gets a big offer. He is offered $400,000 if he manages to kill them both. Eddie is, however, a good friend of John, so he goes on to decline the offer right away. When they are in the van, John goes on to tell her that he lied to her about going to MIT too. He tells her he majored in cooking and also goes on to tell her that he has never been a fan of her cooking. She, however, surprises him when she confesses that she never cooked. In fact, she always hired someone to do it for her. Jane also shocks him when she tells him that she is an orphan and she hired someone to play her parents when the two got married. They then go on to destroy their attackers' 3 pursuing armored sedans, all while bickering over their fighting styles and newly discovered personal secrets. After meeting with Eddie, the Smiths decide to fight together to preserve their marriage. They kidnap Dans from his high-security prison to use as a bargaining chip. He reveals he was merely bait, an intern hired jointly by their employers after they discovered the Smiths were married in hopes of the Smiths killing each other. John and Jane discard their separate contingency plans and make their last stand together, fending off an assault of heavily armed operatives inside a home decorating store. The film ends with the couple meeting the marriage counselor again, where the Smiths state how much their marriage has thrived, with John encouraging him to ask for an update on their sex life, to which he quietly answers 10 out of 10. And with that, the movie comes to an end. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new movie recaps.